In the middle of one of the harshest deserts on Earth, thousands of kilometers from any coastline, lie what appear to be warships, not sailing through water but sitting quietly on sand. Why would China build something like this in the middle of nowhere? Let's find out the answer. From above, the Taklamakan Desert in China's northwestern Xinjiang region looks like a golden ocean frozen in time. It stretches endlessly, a vast expanse of dunes and ridges, one of the driest places on the planet. But zoom in on satellite imagery, and you will notice something that should not exist there. Enormous geometric forms that look unmistakably like naval ships. One, nearly 300 meters long, mirrors the exact proportions of an aircraft carrier. You can trace its runway deck, its angular bow, even its island superstructure, and the small control tower on one side. Nearby sits another ship-shaped pattern resembling a destroyer, complete with the faint shape of a bridge, funnels, and missile hatches. At first, analysts thought it was some kind of optical illusion, or maybe industrial storage. But soon, commercial satellite companies confirmed the images were real. These were deliberate constructions, not wreckage, not scrapyards, but purpose-built, life-size mock-ups of modern warships sitting in the sand. Some are made of steel frames, others just wooden skeletons painted with reflective panels. One even appears mounted on a rail system, allowing it to move back and forth along a short track. That one detail changes everything. To understand why this is so important, you have to look at where these desert ships are located. They sit right inside one of China's most secretive testing regions, a facility used by the People's Liberation Army Rocket Force, the branch responsible for the country's ballistic and hypersonic missiles. For years, this part of the Taklamakan has served as a laboratory for missile testing, far from cities, foreign observers, or accidental witnesses. The desert's emptiness is not a limitation, it is the whole point. It allows China to simulate scenarios that would be nearly impossible or politically risky to test in open water. If you think about it, the desert is not that different from the sea. Both are vast, empty, and unforgiving. But while the sea moves and hides its secrets, the desert exposes everything. It is the perfect canvas for testing how a missile behaves when it strikes a precise target without worrying about recovery or contamination. And when that target happens to be a full-scale replica of an American aircraft carrier, the intent becomes crystal clear. Aircraft carriers are not just warships, they are symbols of power. The United States Navy's carrier fleet has long been its greatest strategic advantage, a floating airbase capable of projecting military might anywhere in the world. Each one carries thousands of personnel and dozens of aircraft. To sink even a single carrier would be a catastrophic blow, militarily and psychologically. So, it is no coincidence that China, the only country today capable of matching the United States in naval buildup speed, is testing ways to neutralize them. Over the past 2 decades, China's military transformation has been staggering. 2 decades ago, China had no operational aircraft carriers. Today, it operates multiple carriers and is expanding its naval shipbuilding at pace. But even more worrying for foreign strategists is what China has been developing on land, a new generation of anti-ship ballistic missiles, often called carrier killers. These weapons are designed to travel hundreds or even thousands of kilometers, launch into the upper atmosphere, then re-enter at hypersonic speeds, all while tracking and striking moving targets at sea. That last part is what makes them revolutionary and dangerous. To test whether such a missile can actually hit a carrier-sized moving target, you need to simulate one. You cannot park a real carrier in the water for target practice. So, China built its own version in the desert. The ship-shaped structures are likely serving as radar and visual surrogates for United States Navy ships. Engineers can mount sensors on them to measure the accuracy and damage potential of new missile systems. Some mock-ups are fitted with tall metallic poles, possibly acting as radar reflectors, mimicking how a real ship's surface scatters radar waves. When a missile seeker locks on, the data from these sensors helps calibrate how precisely it can identify and hit the right object. The rail system might be the most ingenious part of the whole setup. Satellite imagery shows one carrier mock-up sitting on a track that snaked through the desert, curving sharply in multiple directions. It is not built for transportation, it is built for simulation. The movement allows operators to mimic evasive maneuvers that a carrier might make when under attack, swerving, accelerating, or turning hard to confuse an incoming missile. By tracking and hitting that moving target, China can refine its guidance systems to anticipate and counter such moves in real combat. Now imagine what this means in a real-world scenario. In the South China Sea, United States aircraft carriers often patrol to uphold freedom of navigation, essentially to challenge China's sweeping territorial claims. Meanwhile, China has been building artificial islands there, turning reefs into military outposts equipped with radar, runways, and missile systems. Tensions between the two navies have risen sharply, with near collisions and confrontations becoming common. If China can demonstrate, even theoretically, that it can hit a United States carrier from deep inside its own territory, that changes everything. It sends a clear message: come too close, and we can reach you. It is not just the South China Sea either. Across the Taiwan Strait, the stakes are even higher. Beijing views Taiwan as a breakaway province to be reunited one way or another. The United States, while not officially recognizing Taiwan as a separate nation, has pledged to help it defend itself. Any conflict over Taiwan would almost certainly involve United States carrier strike groups. In that scenario, China's ability to neutralize carriers before they can enter the combat zone could determine the entire outcome of a war. That is the strategic logic behind the desert warships. They are not there for show. They are the physical expression of a doctrine known as anti-access, area denial, A2, AD. The idea is simple: make it too dangerous for enemy forces to come close. If a carrier has to operate far from the fight, its aircraft cannot reach targets effectively. Its presence becomes symbolic, and the balance of power shifts without a single shot fired. China is not the first to build mock-ups of foreign vessels. In another theater in recent years, a different country constructed a full-scale replica of an American carrier on the water and used it for missile tests and public displays. The United States itself builds elaborate training environments, fake towns, and even replica aircraft to stress test pilots and systems. But what makes China's desert experiments unique is the mix of scale, sophistication, and the weapons under evaluation. Anti-ship ballistic missiles combine the speed of a space-launched projectile with the precision of a guided weapon, and that mix can upend modern naval strategy. The desert mock-ups also allow China to test sensors and electronic warfare systems in a controlled environment. By placing cameras, radar sensors, and other monitoring equipment, engineers can gather critical data about missile impact patterns, shockwave effects, and even simulated crew survival conditions. Each test run allows them to refine targeting software and improve missile resilience against countermeasures. This level of iterative development is something no conventional naval exercise could easily replicate. China is also believed to be experimenting with advanced decoy systems integrated into these mock-ups. Some replicas may include heat sources, electromagnetic emitters, or radar-reflecting materials that mimic a fully operational ship. These additions make missile guidance and tracking tests more realistic, forcing engineers to refine the missile algorithms and countermeasures. By adjusting variables like target speed, angle, and simulated defenses, the desert facility becomes a laboratory for modern naval combat strategy, allowing repeated trials without risk to actual personnel or international incidents. The desert also provides an environment to test long-term structural integrity and material performance under extreme temperature swings, wind erosion, and sand abrasion, which can simulate years of wear on real warships within months of testing. This allows engineers to understand how materials behave under operational stress, helping improve the durability and reliability of future naval systems. Imagine trying to defend against a missile traveling at Mach 10, coming in from space, maneuvering unpredictably in its final descent, and aiming for a target moving at sea. Conventional shipboard defenses were rarely designed for that challenge. Even if they detect the threat, reaction times are measured in seconds, and a tiny course adjustment can mean the difference between survival and annihilation. That is why these desert tests matter. They are not just engineering experiments. They are data-gathering operations in a much larger competition between military powers. China also relies on an expanding space-based network to support such weapons. Satellites provide continuous tracking, communications, and targeting data that helps link ballistic missile launches to real-time observations of a moving ship. By fusing satellite imagery with radar and electronic intelligence, China can reduce the uncertainty that once made hitting a moving vessel from land nearly impossible. In that sense, these desert mock-ups are only one piece of a larger puzzle that includes space capabilities, cyber surveillance, and long-range reconnaissance. China seems to be comfortable making these elements visible. The desert site is plainly visible on commercial satellite imagery. Anyone with internet access can see it. Some experts believe that is deliberate. In modern geopolitics, capability is sometimes less important than perception. By allowing the world to see these mock-ups, China may be sending a warning to any country considering direct military intervention within its sphere of influence. That show of capability imposes political and military costs on potential adversaries without a single shot being fired. The response to these developments will shape naval design and alliance politics across the region. Navies are already experimenting with new concepts of distributed lethality, deploying more numerous smaller vessels rather than relying on a few very large platforms. There is growing investment in electronic warfare decoys and layered missile defense systems designed to intercept high-speed threats. Allies are coordinating closer intelligence sharing and joint exercises to reduce the risk of surprise and improve collective resilience. There are also wider diplomatic consequences. Visible tests force relative powers to account for new realities when negotiating security arrangements or crafting crisis escalation policies. When one side improves its capacity to shore up a blockade or deny access to a theater, 15 years of assumptions about freedom of movement at sea can be rendered obsolete practically overnight. That dynamic increases the risk of miscalculation because adversaries must reassess their thresholds for intervention and the costs of action. Back in the desert, the activity is ongoing. Satellite images taken months apart show structures moved, rebuilt, or replaced. Some mock-ups appear scorched, as if struck by high-energy impacts or explosions. New tracks appear, suggesting experiments continue to evolve. Every change tells analysts something about what is being tested and how rapidly the capabilities are improving. It is also important to remember that technology does not exist in a vacuum. Countermeasures evolve alongside offensive systems. There are paths to mitigate the threat of anti-ship ballistic missiles. Improvements in early warning satellites, enhanced electronic countermeasures, and novel interceptors could blunt some of the most dangerous effects. Unmanned systems that disperse, strike risk, and stealth technologies that reduce radar signature present additional ways to adapt. But each new adaptation invites fresh responses, and so the cycle continues. There is a human dimension to all of this too. These structures are built not just by engineers, but by planners, strategists, and political leaders imagining worst-case scenarios and seeking advantage without crossing certain red lines. They reflect a mindset that prizes preparation and demonstration of resolve. For citizens in the region, the images can be unsettling. A carrier sitting motionless in the desert serves as an ominous reminder that the tools of war are changing where they are developed and how they are tested. These structures also serve as a visual message to military planners around the world, showing the level of investment and seriousness with which China approaches its strategic goals. Every sensor pole, every curve in the rail track, and every mock-up represents thousands of hours of engineering thought and trial and error, designed to simulate the most complex combat situations. The desert also allows testing under extreme temperature variations, from scorching daytime heat to freezing nights, giving engineers insights into material durability and system resilience. It also provides the chance to test emergency scenarios, such as simulated onboard fires, explosions, or structural failure without endangering lives, something impossible at sea. These lessons inform not just missile accuracy, but broader ship design, resilience, and crew safety protocols. In the end, the desert warships are a vivid symbol of a moment in history. They show how competition between major powers has moved beyond open battlefields to encompass deserts, space, and networks of sensors and data. They show how deterrence can be cultivated through visibility, and how strategies once unimaginable can be rehearsed far from disputed seas. So the next time you see a satellite image of a warship lying motionless in the middle of sand, remember that it is not an art project, and it is not science fiction. It is a rehearsal for a future of naval warfare that may be decided as much on algorithms and telemetry as on metal and wave. It is a reminder that the balance of power can shift quietly over years through tests, trials, and demonstrations conducted out of sight for most of the world and in full view of those who look up from above. Thanks for watching. If you found this exploration useful, please like, share, and subscribe, and come back for more deep dives into the stories shaping our world.